everyone, welcome to this update video. I hope you're doing really great this morning. And so as you would have seen, from the title, the thumbnail, we've got a couple of tropical waves, and this one in particular is looking quite robust, and it may actually try to develop as it heads to the west. So we've already got one entering the Eastern Caribbean. It is still helping to unleash some unsettled weather across the Eastern Islands. So we're going to be talking about that as well as the others out there. And another one just off of Africa may develop as it heads to the Caribbean. So models have been showing that. I've been talking about it recently, and there is a little bit more agreement, especially with our ensemble forecast in regard to that system. So we're going to be looking at the latest in this update. So there's quite a bit of activity going on right now. And let's zoom closer to this region right here. We can see all of this convection, lots of showers, lots of thunderstorms in association with this next approaching tropical wave. And then there is some thunderstorm activity as well as some periods of heavy rain across the Eastern Caribbean islands. And so that would include areas such as Trinidad and Tobago, even headed to the vicinity of Grenada as well, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, even going to St. Lucia. There is some rain around. And then for the northeastern islands, for the vicinity of St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, even some passing showers for Antigua and Barbuda. So there is some activity there. And with all this rainfall around through today, especially if there are some heavy downpours, there could be some instances of flooding. So please be safe, should you encounter any flood waters. And then let's drift a bit more to the west, and we can see here that for the vicinity of the Bahamas, there's a lot of thunderstorm activity also for near the Turks and Caicos Islands. So that area has been active. Similar thing for the northwestern Caribbean. So for Jamaica, for example, especially in the afternoon hours, there's been a lot of rain around in some areas. And then for Cuba, the Cayman Islands, there's been some activity. And then going to the vicinity of Central America is still a bit active. We can see some thunderstorms in parts of eastern Belize and eastern Nicaragua. Then in the South Caribbean, we see that little blob down there just offshore Colombia. So that is what is going on, guys. Let's look at the rainfall forecast for today. Alright, so the more color we see on this map, the more rain is actually expected within that spot. And we're mostly seeing these oranges, yellows, and reds around. So as I pointed out, for the Bahamas near the Turks and Caicos, it's a bit active. So there could be some additional heavy rain in some areas. A similar thing for some spots in Cuba and throughout Central America, Mexico, all the way down to Panama. Within all of those different countries, for some places, there could be some heavy rain today. The islands of San Andres and Providencia may also experience some downpours. The big islands of Honduras and even the Keys offshore Belize. And then for the vicinity of the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, a couple showers may loiter around, especially this afternoon. Similar thing for Haiti and then the Dominican Republic. For Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and then for parts of the Leeward Islands, there could also be some showers here and there. Some downpours definitely possible for the ABC Islands today. And then for the Windward Islands, we're seeing that it gets a bit more colorful, especially for Trinidad. And the bulk of the rain would actually favor the eastern part of Trinidad and Tobago. And even for Barbados as well, there's likely to be some additional rainfall as we head throughout today. And then for northern South America, Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana, there could be some downpours, some heavy rain in some areas as well. Same thing for Venezuela and parts of Colombia. So it remains quite active in the Caribbean. We've got lots of moisture, but in addition, there is a big dust plume which is going to be heading in. So let's go on to that right now. We can see here that there are these very dark brown shadings. That is a pretty high concentration of Saharan dust. Now, this is not something strange for the time of year. Matter of fact, the dust peaks as we head into the month of July. That's usually when we get the most plumes of the very dense dust making its way to the Caribbean and the Americas as well. So as we're going to be heading through today, we're going to have this dust blanketing the Lesser Antilles, even headed to the vicinity of Puerto Rico and the Virgin islands, and then eventually for other parts of the Northern Caribbean, such as Hispaniola, Jamaica, Cuba, the Bahamas, the Cayman Islands, as well as we head into the mid and latter part of the week. So Wednesday through Friday, these areas are going to be experiencing that dust coverage. And then for the ABC Islands, starting tomorrow, there is going to be that dust coverage there as well, and some of that will make its way into parts of northern South America, especially for Venezuela. Now, the dust has its negative health effects, such as skin, eye, and throat irritation, breathing issues as well, and it can definitely be a nuisance. So it is important that, if you're going out, to be covered as much as you can, but that can be very difficult because it's very hot. I mean, if you're not experiencing any inclement weather conditions, if it's not overcast, we're getting some decent rain and it's very windy, it may be pretty difficult to actually bear through with that. But the dust is in its very dense plumes right now, approaching the Lesser Antilles, so it's going to be very hazy out there. But I mean, on the bright side as well, it does help to bring those more vibrant sunrises and sunsets, so that is a treat for the eye on the aesthetic side. But let's go ahead and drift now to the potential of seeing development. Now, the tropical waves that we want to watch for development are the one that is just offshore the Guyanas headed to the Lesser Antilles, as well as the one offshore Africa. So these two right here. Let's look at what the models have to show. We're starting out with the GFS. We've got the forecast time up there, and you're seeing all these colors, these different shadings around, those green shadings, even those spots of yellows, oranges. That is all representing the precipitation rate. And again, this is a forecast. So as we're going to be heading into tomorrow, we can see all of that moisture around for parts of the Southeast Caribbean as the tropical wave makes its way in. Then as we head to the latter part of the week, go into Thursday, the 27th of June, there we can see all that activity moving across the Western Caribbean near Jamaica, the Cayman Islands. But then take a look at this. As we head into this weekend on Saturday, the GFS is expecting that we're going to see an area of low pressure forming in the northwestern Caribbean and the system drifting to the southern Gulf, where it may develop some more and actually make its way into Mexico. So the GFS is showing that in the long term, we could actually see this system make its way into the Gulf and try to get itself together. And this is expected by Tuesday of next week. So early next week is when we really want to watch to see if we're going to have some development of that tropical wave. Now, the Euro model is showing all that moisture as we head into tomorrow, then headed to Thursday, and it doesn't show much development of something in the Gulf, but we do see that significant increase in moisture for parts of Central America, and that has been an issue. Even if we don't see development, once the system is sustaining enough rainfall, it could result in periods of flooding and even mudslides across some areas. So development isn't needed for there to be those dangerous conditions unleashed. But around that time, actually, as we head into Monday of next week, the 1st of July, that is when the tropical wave that is just offshore Africa may reach the Caribbean. And look at this. This is the Icon model, one of the good ones out there. We can see that it is showing something trying to develop as it makes its way to the Caribbean as it approaches the Windward Islands. So this is for Monday, the 1st of July. And I mean, once the environment is conducive, we can definitely see development, because this thing here is forecast to stay a bit to the south. So it may stay south of all of that dry air and dust associated with the Saharan air layer, and hence it may actually have a chance to get itself together. And it's not just this model here. The ensembles are expecting development. We're seeing more and more of them hopping on to us actually having development. So the higher the concentration of those different strokes and those L's that we see, the higher the chance that we may actually have some level of development. So this is as we're going to be heading into Sunday night of next week. We can see that the Euro ensemble members are actually picking up on that tropical wave entering the southern Gulf. So some of these members are showing that we could actually see something there. And then for that tropical wave offshore Africa, we may see it develop, starting to get itself together around this time. It's going to be moving generally to the west. Now look at this. As we head into next Wednesday, the middle of next week, we see that these members are definitely expecting that either we could see this thing develop on its way in the Caribbean and making its way through the region, or it may enter but curve up to the eastern islands. So The Euro ensemble members are definitely showing that, and we're seeing more of them expecting development. The GFS ensemble members, we can see that for that Gulf system, for the vicinity of Central America, we see all those L's. This is by next Tuesday. And then for that tropical wave, we can see that we have a decent amount of members expecting that we could see development. So there is some greater agreement in regards to that. And maybe by the weekend, we would actually have the area, the tropical wave out there being marked. Who knows? And it will develop once conditions are right. But as I mentioned, there are those dust plumes out there that helps to inhibit development. But once the system stays far south enough, below that dust plume, it may actually sustain some activity and try to get itself together. So we're going to be having these more robust tropical waves headed to the west. And I mean, what we're seeing now, even what the models are forecasting, this is kind of the smoke to the fire, because we're going to see things get very active as we head into the coming weeks and months. So we could see development of this tropical wave out here, and this next one that is closer to the Caribbean may get itself together. If it makes its way into the Gulf and the environment is favorable, it could definitely try to take advantage of that to become a depression or even a storm. It's not a guarantee, but it is possible. And so, as we head throughout the hurricane season, it's definitely that time when, a lot of persons are very concerned about what's happening. But that is the purpose of my channel, to keep you informed best as I can. That is why I make updates every single day, and I will continue to do that as we head throughout the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. And so guys, that is basically what I wanted to share with you in this update video, and I really do hope you found it to be very informative. But if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll respond when I get the chance to do so. And remember to always be weatherwise.